Look, today I have tabled in Parliament the latest demersal fish stock assessments. The science shows our demersal fish stocks across the state are depleted and several species are under serious threat from continued high fishing pressure. I want to thank the recreational, commercial and the charter fishing sectors for the efforts they have made over many years to help to try to get these fish stocks to recover. However, the latest science shows we need to do more. We know the WA community values and loves fish like pink snapper, red emperor and the iconic WA Dhufish. The challenge is to make sure that we have these species around for the future. Let me be clear, the science released today shows that these fish are at risk. In response, on the 20th of October, we will bring together commercial and recreational fishers. We'll bring representatives from the tourism and charter sectors and other stakeholders. We will bring all of the stakeholders together on the 20th of October to discuss the science and to map a path forward together. We need everyone to be part of the solution. I want to work with the fishing community to consider future management options. We know that our community loves fishing. I come from a family that loves recreational fishing. We also want the public to have their say. DPIRD will be publishing these science reports today, and there will be an opportunity for people to have their say on the science, share their views. We all want to work together to ensure that there are fish for the future. I'm going to pass to Nathan Harrison now, Executive Director of Fisheries, and then I'll come back for questions. Nathan.
Thanks very much, Minister. In relation to demersal scalefish challenges that we have currently before us, we're really fortunate in Western Australia to have a comprehensive fisheries research program that undertakes stock assessments on a range of different species around Western Australia. Those stock assessments are extensive. They take into account the age structure of the population. They also look at relevant data like recreational and commercial catch rates to look at the level of exploitation on these species. When it comes to demersal scalefish, they're typically fairly slow growing, and they live to a long age. If you look at something like a dewfish in Western Australia, found on the west coast, they will live to 40 years of age. Bite redfish on the south coast can live to 80 years of age. So there's a conservative management response that's required for these high-risk species. The stock assessments that were completed recently indicate that we do have substantial sustainability issues around the state, from red emperor in the Pilbara and the Kimberley to dewfish on the west coast and pink snapper on the south coast. So we're going to have to look at appropriate management arrangements for these particular species moving forward to ensure their long-term sustainability. Obviously, working with the fishing sectors is going to be a very important part of the process moving forward. And when you look at something like the West Coast demersal scalefish fishery that runs from Kalbarri to Augusta, we have around 40,000 recreational fishers that are passionate about going out there and catching a feed. We also have commercial and recreational fishers that access those areas and are important to them as well. So engagement with the stakeholders is going to be very important, and underlying any management decision that we move forward with, it has to be based on the science. The science is absolutely critical to informing any management decisions that we have as we move forward and address these sustainability concerns that we have for these highly prized demersal scalefish.
The Minister can take questions now, and then we'll go to Nathan. Any questions for the Minister?
Why is it taking so long to release this latest report?
So the latest data has only just come through. So I've tabled 6 reports today. The last piece of the puzzle was the recreational fishing survey. So we've released all the data today, and so we've released the data as soon as it's become available.
The community's been calling for this to be released for quite some time now. Why hasn't it taken up until September to release it?
So can I explain to you how this data is gathered? This is not an easy process. So we can get commercial catch data quite readily. We run surveys for recreational data, but to actually understand the full science, we have a team of researchers that have to actually dissect fish. They have to study their ear bones to understand the age of the fish. We have a good relationship with commercial fishers where they send us the skeletons. I've been to the Hillary's facility. It takes a long time to actually understand the data. It's fine to know the number of fish caught, which is readily available. It's about the age of the fish. That is not determined necessarily by the size of the fish. So we have to do quite intensive research to actually understand the age of the fish that are being caught, and then to understand whether they've reached reproductive maturity or not. So this is an involved process. The reports I've tabled today are very thick scientific reports. People will be able to download them and read them for themselves.
There has been a lot of concern about the new restrictions on demersal fishing, but also the South Coast Marine Park. I mean, the opposition has accused you of trying to kill recreational fishing, basically. Is this map proof that it's necessary?
Look, I love recreational fishing. I come from a family of recreational fishers. I've actually briefed the opposition on this matter just now. They too, the opposition spokesperson for the fisheries, Kirralie Waugh, understands that we are, the science is incredibly important. I've handed her all of the scientific reports. I've spoken to Recfish West yesterday to tell them that this report was being tabled today. I've spoken to the charter fishing sector. The recreational fishing sector is incredibly important. It is not just about the people that fish. It's about the tackle shops. It's about the tourism operators. It is a much bigger group of stakeholders. Equally, the commercial sector is incredibly important. In this fishery, these are small businesses. This is a small fishery, commercially speaking, where we have a number of small businesses who I've met with regularly. I don't want to end fishing. What I want to do, however, is make sure that our grandchildren can fish for Dhufish. I do not want to be the minister in charge, that leads to the extinction of something like WA Dhufish.
Does holding a forum in October foreshadow the need for further restrictions?
We will have to make tough choices about management moving forward. Everything's on the table. I'm not going to preempt what that looks like. I want everyone to come together, understand the science, question the science. I want other experts to come. This science is not only done by DPIRD, it is reviewed by CSIRO, by respected people in this industry. But I want everyone to come together, but nothing is off the table.
Is this a result of overfishing, or is there also an element of climate impact?
What I can say is I want to really shout out to the commercial and recreational fishers who have had restrictions placed on them, who have absolutely operated within the law. What we're finding now, however, the latest science is showing that we are not getting those older fish that have reached that full reproductive potential. With regard to, I'm sorry, I forgot the rest of the question.
Is it a result of overfishing, or is there also climate impact?
Look, I'll let the scientists speak to climate, but on a year-by-year basis, we know that weather conditions impact spawning of fish, and so weather conditions do have that impact. But I think it's fair to say that we have taken more fish than the benchmark that we set, and that's because we've brought in fishing restrictions, but we have a increasing population. We have an increasing cohort of people that love to fish. We also know we have a population that now fish throughout the week. Once upon a time, people would fish, perhaps one day on the weekend. We have a big FIFO population. We have people that love to go out midweek fishing, as is their right. And so we know that both the commercial sector and the recreational sector, despite the limits set, they've still gone above those benchmarks for sustainable fishery.
Just back to my first question, the former Fisheries Minister, though, was informed about the severe risk assessments in the West Coast fisheries far back as February last year. Why is the action of having a forum taken so long then?
So back in February, we were referring to data from 2022. We were waiting for the recreational fishing surveys because we didn't know how many recreational fishers. So every minister has made decisions based on the latest science at the time, and I'm now announcing that there is a fresh set of reports and a fresh set of data, including recreational fishing surveys, that wasn't available previously.
Wasn't there enough data though already to have acted prior to today?
No.
So was population growth and those factors not considered in the previous management plan?
So the previous management plan is set, and I will let the scientists provide more advice. The previous management plan sets benchmarks. What we know from the recreational fishing survey is that more people are fishing more often.
How do you find a balance between protecting fish stock but also potentially putting restrictions in place that won't, will be tolerable for people that love to fish in WA?
So this is why I need the whole community to be part of this conversation. Getting the balance right between commercial and recreational, making sure our charter operators, thrive is really important, but also together we need to work out how we can fish for the future. No one in this sector wants us to overfish to a point where our iconic Dhufish or our red snapper is extinct. We don't want to see that. And so we know that commercial and recreational fishers want to work together. I've spoken to them yesterday to tell them these reports were being tabled today. And I've had a commitment from them that they will work proactively together. I welcome them to question the science and to review the data, but we need to work together on this.
Should we throw to Nathan for some questions?
Sure. Just in relation to the comment about climate change, one of the important aspects of these particular species that we're dealing with, by the fact that they are slow growing and long lived, they don't have recruitment of juvenile fish into the fishery each year because of the environmental conditions, and that can be many that we deal with. They may only have a successful recruitment of juvenile fish every 5 to 7 years. And we have to try and protect those cohorts as they move through the population to make sure that the fishery is sustainable. So it's not so much about climate change, it's actually recognising that the environment does play a significant impact in relation to successful recruitment, and we only see that every 5 to 7 years. In relation to the comment about is this to do with overfishing, there is certainly, when you look at the catches, and this is, as the Minister was talking to, the information that's only just become available around the recreational catch data. So in 2022, we changed the management arrangements to try and reduce both commercial and recreational catches to new benchmarks. Those were successful in reducing catches to some extent, but not to the level required to ensure that these fisheries continue to actually rebuild to sustainable levels. So the management measures did reduce catches, but they weren't effective enough. With that latest data on the recreational catch and the updated stock assessment, it's clear that there is a need for additional management action to be taken, and that's something that we'll work through with the stakeholders to determine the most appropriate measures in place. It's likely, when you look at the nature of this issue across the state, that there will be different management options adopted in different regions, depending on the catch by either commercial or recreational fishers. So a range of measures is likely to be adopted. That can only be done really with engagement with the sectors to make sure that they understand, first of all, the reason for the science and the reason for management action, and then to inform what decisions we take moving forward.
Nathan, wasn't it DPIRD's advice last year, though, that Dhufish and snapper were at severe risk in February 2024? That was found in FOIs obtained. Wasn't that an indication that action was needed back in February 2024 and not right now?
Yeah, it's certainly when we had the stock status being severe. That was back in 2022 when we looked at the stock assessment, and that informed the new management arrangements. We needed to see whether or not those new management arrangements we put in place in 2022 were going to be effective. Even though we had some updated stock assessment information, we only just received the comprehensive recreational catch data that really helped understand whether or not they were meeting those targets or not. So that survey certainly indicates that, as I said, while catches were reduced, they weren't reduced enough through those management measures. So there is still a challenge there about managing these stocks and the need for additional management action, and that's been part of that brief to the sector bodies at this stage.
What sort of percentage do you have to look at, for example, your recreational fisher, and also will have a scenario where they catch it and they have to release it back?
Sure. First of all, looking at the stock status, when you look at these types of species, Dhufish, pink snapper, you want to ensure that you have at least 40% of the biomass in the water. You don't fish it below 40%. So that's what we refer to as the target. When you get down to 30%, that's what we call the threshold, where there's really a need for management action. Then you get down to 20%, which is what we call the limit, where there's a need for really significant management action to recover these fisheries. So when you look at severe threat, those indicator species are at around 20%. So that's why we have such a significant management situation, and looking at the science and using the science, we need to inform what is going to be appropriate moving forward for around the state.
This is like there's severe risk, high risk, severe risk. It's pretty alarming overall across the state. What do you imagine some of the restrictions could be to address that there is low supply? Does that look like catch limits or boat limits from like 4 to 1 per day? Like what could
I'm not going to preempt any management decisions. We have a significant situation in front of us around the stock status. I think, as the Minister said, all management options are on the table, and we need to look at the appropriateness of those measures to determine how we sustainably manage this fishery into the future. And as I said, it's likely that there will be a range of different measures that are adopted around the state. It won't just be about bag and size limits. We need to look at the commercial sector. We need to look at their take. We need to look at whether or not we adopt more quota management settings in some of the commercial fisheries.
Is there a timeline? Obviously, the forum's next month. When will you obviously discuss potential restrictions with groups in this forum? When would you like to potentially see action post the forum?
Well, the stakeholder engagement in the forum is going to be really important in trying to bring everyone together, and that shared understanding of stewardship and taking personal responsibility for these stocks is going to be important. But really, it's once we go through that forum and are looking at some stakeholder engagement that sits around that I think we'll be in a better position to actually look at what those decisions are and the time frame for the implementation of any decisions. So I don't have that time frame at this stage. It will certainly be informed by stakeholder engagement. The forum will play an important role in that, and we need to keep working with the community to ensure that they're on board with what decisions we take.
Will fines be involved as a deterrent?
We already have significant penalties in place for people that don't abide by the recreational or commercial fishing rules. I think it's important, though, to say that the vast majority of recreational and commercial fishers do treat our fish stocks with a sense of stewardship and personal responsibility, and there is a very, very high voluntary compliance rate with our rules that we have in place. Yes, we do have penalties that do, for the people that are caught doing the wrong thing, but the vast majority of fishers, commercial and recreational, do the right thing. But there are significant penalties for anyone that does the wrong thing.
Just very quickly, is it hard to catch those people who live farm?
Sorry, I didn't hear that question.
Is it hard to catch recreational fishers who live in farm and say, we've done so, if someone sees it, I'll just put it, nobody cares?
Yeah, no, I think that, when it comes to recreational fishing, obviously people are accessing the fishery through boat ramps. We have over 100 fisheries officers around the state. Where we're dealing with sustainability issues, we will look at how we roster and how we actually target different areas. It's not just about fisheries officers. There's cameras on boat ramps. There's other intelligence that we use to make sure that people are complying by the rules. And it's important that any management arrangements that we put in are supported by adequate compliance programs. But really, for the recreational sector, the most important aspect is education, and educating people to make sure that they're aware of the situation, the science, the stock status, and getting them to voluntarily comply with the rules that we put in place.
Any final questions for Nathan? No? All right, thank you, Nathan. Questions of the day for the Minister?
Minister.
It's going to rain.
Before it rains?
So the federal government has vowed to reduce emissions by 62 to 70% by 2035. How will WA help achieve that goal when we don't even have a 2030 climate target?
Look, I understand that the Prime Minister has made an announcement today around meeting our global obligations, and we certainly welcome that. As the Premier has said previously, our path to net zero is slightly different as we help the world decarbonise.
But I guess without a climate target, how can we contribute to that goal?
So we will contribute to that goal. As the Premier said, we have a different pathway, and we will help the world decarbonise.
But doesn't that different pathway need to be measurable in some way?
Look, I don't have anything further to add. The Premier has addressed this already. I'm sure he'll have more to say on the matter.
I asked, simplifying an issue that's very complicated, but I asked President Zemplis this question today. If the federal government and Australia needs to be reducing emissions, should WA's emissions be going up or down?
As the Premier has said, our pathway to net zero is slightly different as we help the world decarbonise.
All right, thank you, everyone.